Oh, I have one of those too. Heavy though. Left it in my luggage. Is that the XZ8?
10.
10?
XZ10.
What happened to the 9? Was there a 9? I didn't get a 9.
Did you secure the package?
1 out of 3 ain't bad.
Negative. We secured 1.
No witnesses?
There were complications.
You have failed your mission, soldier. Your team has been compromised. You're on your own for extraction. Over.
Typical Red Room borscht. They say they care, but do they?
Mission failure. I never fail.
Hey, panelers, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
Okay, everybody, this is a spoiler-full podcast about What If Season 3, but we're going to be covering episodes 1 to 3 right now because everybody got ahead of the game from us. We couldn't get this going because of the holidays, things that happen with family, stuff like that. Life intervenes in some way, but I'm sure a lot of you didn't get to really watch these episodes like I did up until recently because, you know, holidays get to you, and how often do you get to sit down and watch sometimes? So we decided, all right, we'll do the first 3 now. We'll do the second set of 3 the next podcast that we do, and then we'll do the final 2 because it's only 8 episodes of What If Season 3. So last year we kind of missed out on doing Season 2, but we're here and we're dedicated to doing this because we're going to get a few more things that we're going to do Marvel-based, possibly DC-based, to cover within a year. Obviously, with Daredevil Born Again or Reborn, we're going to be covering that. We could talk about Creature Commandos, things of that nature, or even the Watchmen series movie that they're doing now and Crisis on Infinite Earths if we wanted to. We'll see. But we're trying to get you some content, and I know it's been a while. Obviously, after you've probably already listened to our year-end review that Rob Moda and I did. So as you can tell, we are back, and Steve's back with me. Yay!
yes, it's good. It's good to be back. It's been a minute, and I've been dealing with some health issues, as some people know, and got some more health issues I'm gonna be dealing in the next year. Yeah. But we'll get through it.
And he's getting healthy, everybody. Don't worry.
I am. It sucks getting old, y'all.
Yeah, it is. So with that, we'll go in. We're going to go episode by episode real quick. But the first one is What If Season 3, Episode 1. And it's called What If the Hulk Fought the Mech Avengers?
So the synopsis for this one is: a new team of Mech Avengers battle an accidentally enhanced Hulk. I mean, Mech Avengers, Voltron Avengers.
That's what I got out of it too. If you listeners, this is spoiler full, but obviously you've probably seen it and thought the same thing. I thought Voltron right away. I was like, oh my god, they did do this. Oh my goodness. The little kid in me was like, oh, but
it was excited.
Yeah, we got a Uber Hulk.
We got Uber Hulk with a kaiju Hulk, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, he looked like Godzilla.
Exactly.
But it had the elements of Pacific Rim in it, if you think about the way they did this. So my overall thoughts on this was I did enjoy this. As a first one, it really hit it out of the park for me. I really enjoyed it. We got our typical cast of actors that come back to do their voice. You know, with their from their characters in the actual cinematic films, reprising their voice roles, and I thought that was great. So, what did you think, Steve?
You know, I struggled with this one. I really did. I mean, I'm not a kaiju guy. I mean, I know you are. Yeah. You're a kaiju guy. I've never been. I mean, yeah, of course, I watched Godzilla when I was a kid. I saw the Godzilla movies. I've watched the Godzilla stuff. I've just never been a big, huge monsters fan. And it took. There was a few things that took me out of it that I want to complain about. Real quick. First things first is normally, and maybe this is where you can help me because normally, with a what if, even back when they had the comics that I remember, the comics I remember anyway in the 80s, is they would take a moment, and even the first couple seasons did this with the MCU and with comic book moments, but they would take a moment, they would show you the moment, and they would say, this is where it changed, and this is where we're going to do something different. This one, I was so confused because and this is where you can correct me, because I did, and I don't know anything about these Gamma Wars. Was that a thing? Did I miss this?
There was a Hulk run, which they don't really talk about. The Watcher didn't say anything like this happened in the real world. Now, mind you, he would have to go back to comic book lore at this point.
Right.
They're trying to brief everything within the MCU. So the way I took this episode was, all right, this is a one-off. We haven't gotten to, because there's still talks that they're going to do, since now rights of the Hulk are available to Disney Marvel, to do a standalone movie. They're able to do that finally. Mark Ruffalo could easily do a whole movie, and it would be probably one of the last few things he does as a Hulk character. Because we're looking at World War Hulk. We got Hulk Armageddon. There's like a whole bunch of them. There was a point where the Hulk did Hulk out to the point where he got so much gamma radiation in him that he did turn into a huge beast of a monster that he had to, attack the Avengers and stuff like that. So it did happen to some degree, but this is a different take on it. And it's kind of a creative take on it because they never made a comic book of this.
Okay. Because I was like, I was so confused by that, the way it started out, and I was going, wait, the Avengers were killed, like, because it shows that he killed the first group of Avengers that attacked him, and then it took the new captain, Falcon, Rambeau, and the others to finally defeat Apex, not Hulk, to defeat the Apex.
Yeah.
And so that took me out of it a little bit, because I was just like, wait a minute, there's a moment that they show us and they say this is where it changed.
Yes.
And that didn't happen for me. That confused me. So then the other thing, my other complaint is, because I got so excited.
Yeah.
Because I watch credits, y'all. I usually do. Sometimes I skip them, but sometimes I watch credits. And especially with these what if shows, I like to watch credits. And when I saw Oscar Isaac's name come up in the credits, I was like, we're going to get Moon Knight. And then I was like, after the first time watching, I was like, where was Moon Knight? And it wasn't until the second time watching that I realized, oh, he was that guy speaking like with it, like it was like the Mark Spector type character, I guess, who was supposed to be the one that was speaking, but they never showed Moon Knight. They just showed him in his Avengers, in like the white and blue Avengers outfit.
Yes, it's a different character.
As one of his identities. And I was just like, that doesn't, and they never even said his name. They didn't say Mark. They didn't say Moon Knight. Yeah. They called everybody else by name. He was the only one. So I had to go, I guess it's that guy who's speaking with a New York accent must be the one that is Oscar. And that just bothered me, because I was so excited to get to see Moon Knight.
He could have been an Avenger too at one point,
I'm sure he could be. And we were supposed to get him, or we're supposed to get him. Like, I don't know. There's so many rumors flying around about these upcoming, the more they push, this is another side note, to take a tangent here. The more they push out these Marvel movies and change the dates on them, the more we're going to get, this person has been cast, they're coming back to play, it's confirmed, and you're just like, really, is it? And then it's just clickbait.
And a lot of it is clickbait. They're talking Scarlett Johansson again now, and I'm like, I won't believe it until I see it.
Yeah, exactly. So those couple of things kind of took me out of it, right. and you kind of helped me out a little bit with where the placement is,
and the story
because
of it.
Yeah, because they do the callback where Falcon does the "on your left," but he's doing it. He's doing it as Sam Wilson to the Bruce Banner, not Captain America to Sam not Steve Rogers to Sam Wilson. Yeah. So that was I was like, where is this taking place? Because then Rambeau calls him captain.
Mhm.
And so obviously it's in the current run of who Captain America is.
Yeah.
Or
Or in this
I don't know,
world
it just-
where Sam took over,
or this
where
world, right? Where he took over after
Steve Rogers
Apex killed.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So the Apex had already killed off the other Avengers, and
Yeah. So those kind of things kind of took me out of it a little bit. But
yeah, and it's such a shame too that they killed off all the other Avengers, and then they had to retool and regroup, and it was like a whole Pacific Rim thing where they have these huge mechs.
these mech suits, that I guess they got him from Tony Stark before he died.
yeah,
And apparently Bruce Banner was able to hack into the system and reprogram them so that they could even reconfigure themselves because unless they were originally built to form together as one mega Avenger, how did that get changed? Wouldn't that have to have gone back to the tool shed? And I was just like, there's so many things in this that I went, what?
It made me think that was a contingency that Bruce had put into the new mech suits, in the mech suits for them, but he didn't have the programming in that protocol. So that's why when he left, he created that protocol software for them to engage.
That's the problem. They didn't show us or even tell us that Bruce was even involved in the Hulkbuster.
Yeah, they kind of left it as, okay, this happened. Off screen.
We
We're trying to keep this down to a half hour, everybody. We got to keep the show a half hour.
yeah. So anyway, I know this first episode really kind of let me down.
That's all right.
Personally. That was just for me.
I
but,
enjoyed it in the sense because of, like you said, the kaiju portion of it, but also we got like something that came out of World War Hulk, where it's like a huge Hulk, or Hulk kills the Marvel universe, because there were times when he did kill some of the Avengers during that whole thing and that run, and these are all spin-off type of storylines that are not continuity with the regular Hulk runs. It's so funny too,
Right.
because even in comics, it's like, well, they didn't. This is part of the regular comic run, but okay. So it's as if they ignore What If, and they never brought What If back for a long, long time, but we're getting it now. So they're just utilizing some of those stories, but also creating new stories based upon it. With this, they jumped in. I like I said, I like the idea and the aspect of Pacific Rim. They gave Hulk a mutation because he was trying to get rid of it with Gamma, but I thought when he got rid of it, he was human and he didn't have it in him still, but it just made this thing its own sentient being as being a Mega Hulk, or the Apex Hulk, I should say.
The Apex, yeah.
And it almost was similar to looking to like an Abomination, just so huge, and it had a tail, which is so funny.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, but then he had all in it. It was just like Cloverfield, where it just shot out little Hulks.
Thank you. I couldn't figure out what is that a reference to? You're right. It was also, did one of the Godzilla movies have? No, they just showed eggs, didn't they? They didn't show
that was in
them popping
'98
out
where
of
they
him.
had laid eggs.
Okay,
but
yeah, it was Cloverfield where they were kind of popping out of.
it had little
the main
things
monster
that came out that attacked people, but they're minions or whatever. But these aren't as big as the big monsters, so that's where I was like, oh, okay, they're pulling from this, pulling from that, from pop culture and kaiju based. So, all right, it's interesting. I liked it. I didn't like the design of the little mini Hulks that he had following them, but
yeah, the animation was a little crude, but I guess that was on purpose.
Yeah, in the very beginning,
I
it looked like a very retro animation from like the 80s, as when the girl is looking at the TV, and then it shifts over to the regular animation style that they normally do. And I thought that was pretty cool and keen what they did with that. But I love I really like the creature that Banner created with trying to get rid of it out of his system. It was huge, and it just continued to grow. and like I said, I like how they did call it the Gamma War, because literally that's what it is. It is a war on Earth, but in like in World War Hulk, where you had Hulk with his son, who we all know, and then his daughter, and then they were attacking Earth because he was set in Sakaar or whatever, and he came back and he was trying to take over the world. And he had to battle the Avengers, and he did kill off a few, as I recall. If I'm wrong, let us know. But I did like the aspect of, it's like, okay, they all come together. I love how they put a nuke in there. And he goes, oh, it's not operational. But yeah, later on, you knew that it was foreshadowing. It was going to come back. Yeah. He was there, and it made him to become an Uber Hulk to stop. And I like how they kind of made it a little different from the Apex to the Mega Hulk that he got. And then he was able to take out and then take control. The sympathetic part of it is where Banner was still inside that Hulk, even though he's huge. So I guess he is stuck in that form and leading these things away. But like with
it looked like Skull Island. Looked like they
exactly.
went to a very Skull Island looking type of place.
Yep.
So
or Monster Island, as it were. But
Monster Island, yeah.
But I did like that we did Monica Rambeau. We did get her. We did get the Winter Soldier. We got Bucky in there in a mech.
And was that Yelena that he was with you, or was that somebody else? Who was that supposed to be that he was with?
Oh,
the girl that was with him was with the Red Guardian. There was a girl that was with him.
Oh,
that was
it had
like
to be
giving him
Yelena
crap.
Belova, but
that's what I figured. It must have been her. But it didn't seem like that, and so it was very, because
they didn't really
Sam
introduce
makes
much. Yeah.
No, Sam makes that comment when he and Monica are going to go after the newest. When she says, "Oh, well, there's gamma rays at this location," and he says, "Well, all of you take care of your respective parts of the world." Talking to Moon Knight, Red Guardian, and then the Wakanda girl. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, I know.
But so that was cool to see that they had kind of formed this kind of Avengers, but kind of a long distance Avengers thing because of this kaiju situation. Everybody had their own little part of the world to protect. So.
Yeah. And, overall I liked it, but definitely the biggest callback for like a Godzilla thing was the toxic gamma breath as well with the Apex Hulk that's there. I was like, are you kidding me? They did that? I was like, it was like gamma breath.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, all right, I'll take this in. It fulfills a lot of stuff, but they could have easily put Godzilla in this episode if they really wanted to, because Godzilla was in Marvel Comics, everybody. But it was an interesting take. I like Mark Ruffalo's acting and voice acting in it. You could tell the sympathy behind it, and same thing with Anthony Mackie.
Absolutely.
And all the other actors as well. I did enjoy it. It was okay. It was a good way to start it. It gives you a little taste of what we were missing all this time until, and then this will be the one animation that we get before we get the Spider-Man animated show, as well as Marvel Zombies when that comes out later in the year. But I'm looking forward to whatever we get. But yeah, this was okay. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. Was it my favorite so far? I can't tell you until we get to the very end.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold off my judgment on best and not, I hate to say worst, but least favorite, best favorite.
Yeah, because even with last season, I watched all of them, but I didn't like all. Like, there's a bunch of them that I was just like, yeah, I could have did without that. Or
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch season 2 because I don't even know. That's season 2 is a blur to me.
Well, same here. Season 2, there was a character that they created that is gonna be coming back especially in the MCU itself and the live action roles. So I'm looking
Okay.
forward to that character. But that was very a hard watch because just like in Echo, it's Indian based, so they had it in their Indian language. So that was hard
okay.
to watch, and I got to watch it again. I have to give it not like give it the credit where credit is due, and then give it the attention that it's needed. I'm not being racist, everybody. I love the idea that we have Indian characters in it, and Echo and me and Rob actually mentioned that on the year-end review about Echo because he goes, "Oh, you forgot Echo." I was like, "Oh yeah," and we did. I did watch it. We didn't. I don't think we covered it, did we?
We did something with it because I remember talking about it with somebody.
I think we did. I think we probably did a one-off overall about the show.
Yeah, that might have been. It might have been a one-off, or we might have done. I can't remember.
Because
Yeah,
it was one of those shows that wasn't getting really great ratings or reviews, but you could see the benefit to it, and I did enjoy it for
it was
what
set
it
here in
was.
Oklahoma though, so I think we did cover. We did something with it.
Yeah.
I think so.
But yeah, those are my thoughts on this particular episode, which it's pretty cool to see the Hulk finally in one of these things as a mainstay or a main story arc for What If series. But the next two that we'll be covering, those intrigue me even more.
Yeah.
What is the next one?
So episode 2 is What If Agatha Went to Hollywood? Synopsis is Hollywood film star Agatha Harkness has a new co-star in Howard Stark's first production.
Yeah, I love that. The fact that we do get, of all things, we get what's her name as Agatha?
Catherine Hahn.
Catherine Hahn.
Yeah.
As
Catherine Hahn, Kumail Nanjiani.
yeah,
Yeah.
Camille. Yeah, Camille comes back, and he is the same character. He is an Eternal, and he has the same powers, but he's also Bollywood's greatest actor, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. My first impression was, is this the MCU trying to make the Eternals movie relevant again?
Probably, but honestly, we still have to go and think about it. The Eternals still has significance in the MCU in a sense that Tiamat is sticking out of the earth, frozen.
But it's not been mentioned in any other movie.
It's
That's
going
the
to be
problem.
mentioned in Captain America: Brave New World. Because that's the source of adamantium that they're going to bring into.
Okay, I don't know anything about the new. I've watched the trailer once, but I'm trying not to get any spoilers about the new movie.
Well, we also
out,
get
so.
adamantium from Deadpool Wolverine anyway.
Right. That's what I'm saying is the that was my first. Again, I liked the episode. Don't get me wrong. Like it's still not.
Yeah.
It's not going to be my favorite. I liked the episode. I love Catherine Hahn. Love Kumail.
Yeah.
But I have some problems with this episode as well. And
I have one
the
big
first one
problem
was
with it.
the first one I had was the fact that the Eternals movie got such a poor, was not really accepted by audiences overall. And so it almost was like, well, they're trying to force its way in, and we'll see what they do down the road with anything else. But that was my first. But I liked it. I enjoyed this one. I liked it played like a very cinematic, big production number.
It looked like big Hollywood. What would this be? The 40s or the 50s? Would you say?
Around the 40s, 50s kind of time frame with all the dances and big band kind of productions they were doing back then.
Yeah, and
so I think that's what it was meant to mimic.
Yeah,
and
old Hollywood.
Old Hollywood kind of stuff, especially because you got Howard Stark. Howard Stark was in the 50s, 60s, right?
Yeah, around that 40s and 50s. Yeah, it was right around
40s,
World
50s.
War II.
Just after World War II, right? Just after World War II. So we've got that kind of sense. It was really cool. It was cool. I liked one of the things that I like about this What If animation series is there's a lot of things they do that it would be super expensive to do it live action. Like that first episode, even though I wasn't very impressed with it, that would have been a tough one to do live action.
That would
have been a lot of CGI, very expensive, stuff to do, blockbuster kind of things to do for that one. And this one's the same way. It felt very Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I liked that.
I liked it.
I
I liked it because
meant.
it gave that feel of that time and that era, and I do enjoy that. And I love the dance routine, the way they did that with Camille. Well, it's not even Catherine Hahn and Camille; it's the cartoon or animated versions.
Yeah.
But I liked it.
Oh, it was it was great the way they did it, and like I love the fact that at the end, Howard Stark acknowledged that he knew that they were enhanced beings, and they're like, wait, you knew? And he's like, of course, I'm Howard Stark. Of course I knew. I knew we'd get these enhanced beings to do this, and then we wouldn't have to spend all the extra money, on these effects, because you would do them with your magic and with your science and all that. So that was really cool, that acknowledgement that Howard Stark knew all along that what they were doing was, he makes that joke about the safeties of the pyrotechnics being turned off, that kind of thing. So it was good. I've got a couple of issues with it. The first one being the same thing I said with the first episode. The Watcher gives us a very brief statement about this episode is about what if Agatha Harkness discovered the power of the celestial being, and found a spell that could harness that power. And I'm like going, wait, when did this, where did this come from? When did she learn about this? Who told her? How did she get this spell? Like, none of those questions are answered. It's just kind of hand waved away of that. This is what started it, is she found out about this being, and now she's trying to get the power. That's where this universe is kicking off. And I'm like, again, we're not given an event. We're not giving a moment
or a moment where we could see
anything from 616 or from the Marvel, the actual MC, the original MCU that this branches off from.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I could say that justifies it is that we know that she was around at the time in Salem when all the witches were coming around. So she would know through the world that the Eternals were around and must have heard about them through her witchy ways, and must have learned something about the Celestials and the Eternals. So that's probably how she would know about Camille's character. And
I buy that, and I get all that, but I'm just saying they didn't show us that.
I know. It's like,
they barely told us that, because we get a couple of references later on when Camille asks about when she's using the powers of Thena and Gilgamesh, and he's like, wait, where are they? And she reveals that
they're hidden in the effects.
Yeah, they're locked away in some storage thing, because remember, she can take other witches' powers.
But how could she pull from these other people?
Yeah, so obviously she didn't kill them, because then at the end of the episode, there's that, Camille makes that mention that, well, since you revived Ajax and all the rest of them, they're worried that taking out how do you say his name? Isharam?
It's Arishem.
Arishem, killing Arishem might cause the other Celestials to take notice of us. So we get a reference to the fact that, okay, she did wake up his other people, his other Eternals, like she said she would do.
Yeah.
So that's good, at least. And so,
and my issue, with Arishem, is that we don't get the traditional, because in the very beginning of the MCU, when we got the original Guardians of the Galaxy, they were the true John Byrne celestial looking Celestials that they were. They went with what we got from the Eternals of what Arishem looks like. And I'm like, really?
Right.
We can't go back and give us that comic book, not accurate, but as close to it as possible, like we did in Guardians. It would be so nice if they could just change that around, so that way we could, get what we want. We kind of sort of got that with Thor and Love and Thunder when you saw them standing outside of Zeus's little
Yeah.
amphitheater, but I was like, oh man, they made that almost accurate, but it's like, oh, they went back again.
Yeah. So the other issue I have, and this is going to bleed into the next episode as well, because it has this. I'm going to have a similar issue
Mhm.
with the next one. Is wouldn't this timeline, wouldn't this moment, wouldn't this mess with the origin of Iron Man?
Yes,
Because at the end, Howard Stark says, they ask him, what's this going to do with your weapons business? And he goes, oh, weapons. I'm not doing weapons anymore. I'm going to do films. And so suddenly we no longer have an Iron Man, maybe because he went into film instead of going into weapons.
yes,
Yeah, right.
this would be a different universe altogether, kind of like what we
Mhm.
got with Doctor Strange or what Super Strange or whatever it was that was
Dark Strange.
Yeah, that was
it
dark.
Dark Supreme Strange
Yeah,
or
Supreme
something
Strange
like that.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there were several amongst there too. So this would be a universe without Tony Stark, who's Iron Man.
Without the Iron Man, at least the Iron Man that we know.
Yeah.
He would be a different Tony Stark
Mhm.
if that were to be the case. So that kind of also makes me pause. And I thought at first, and obviously we haven't watched beyond episode 3, so there still could be a callback to this, but I did like the fact that at the end, the Watcher kind of says, well, this is a great place to end, but it's also a great place to put a cliffhanger. And he shows the Celestials, kind of coming up behind him.
Mhm.
So I thought are they setting this up for later?
Yes, usually
Later seasons, later episodes.
Generally, with What If, it always boils down to what we get in the last 2 episodes.
Mhm.
It's like a big overall story arc that
Mhm.
kind of blend together because it is multiversal. But
Right.
that is kind of a setup, I think, and we won't know that until we get to that point, and then everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, I have to binge watch all these in one day." And then get to that point and to see it all together and just go, oh, that's what they meant. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then now
Yeah.
I got it, like one big movie, But if
Mhm.
you think about
Yeah,
half hour
and-
per, so you got what? There's 8.
2 hours and 40 minutes. So it'd be close. Yeah. If they're 20 minutes a piece, that's 2 hours and 40 minutes by the time it's all over. So that's right at a Marvel movie. So yeah, and I agree. That's what the previous What If seasons have done. And so I'm excited to see if that's going to be the case, what we're going to see tie in at the end of this season. So
Yeah. I liked it for the Hollywood style, old Hollywood. I like the
Mhm.
fact that, we got Kamal back and, Catherine Hahn's always great. And it's so funny because this is a little bit of a different version of Agatha, but she's still a little bit evil.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then at the end, you could see how they're working together too. So
Mhm.
I really did enjoy it. It was one of those, I'm like, all right, I like the elements of it, just like with the first episode. There are elements in it that I just captivate towards. My big issue is just the celestial look and with
Yeah.
Arishem, but that's always my nitpick is that's like me looking for a black suit Spider-Man, but we're probably never going to see that just yet.
Yeah.
But I like I said, I liked it. I recommend this one. And honestly, I liked it a little bit more over than the first episode. The first one,
Yeah. I definitely liked it more than the first episode. I'll say that.
yeah,
So-
the first one, to me, it just gets me with the kaiju stuff, and
Yeah.
the mech stuff.
and I understand that.
But
That makes total sense to me.
but the third episode,
What if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier? The Red Guardian interferes with the Winter Soldier's mission to kill Howard Stark. And so I'm just going to start right off at the beginning of saying what I said in the last episode. Well, no, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back on that because I want to talk at length about that. But I appreciate that this episode, and if I had to pick of the 3, this was probably my favorite of the 3.
okay,
just because this really felt like a more traditional what if episode. They took a moment that we know of something that happened, the Winter Soldier killing
616.
right in the main MCU, that the Winter Soldier killing Howard Stark and his wife, the mother and father of Tony Stark, and we have the Red Guardian stopping him from doing that, and Howard Stark surviving. And then, okay, what would then happen? We're not going to see the rest of the world. We're going to see just this moment in time from the perspective of the Winter Soldier and Red Guardian. Which so I appreciated that they went back to a more traditional what if format for this episode. I definitely appreciated that. But that being said, it lends to the same question that I asked in the previous episode. Wouldn't this then affect the origin of Iron Man?
Yes.
Wouldn't it also affect the origin of Black Widow?
Yes.
So why then at the end of the episode, when they show Red Guardian jumping in on the Battle of New York with the Avengers, they show Iron Man and Black Widow?
Well, the one thing that they make a constant is Howard is not dead. So there's always a possibility of Tony
that Iron Man still could have been created, even though okay, yeah. So I see what you're saying. Is that it still could have followed the origin of Iron Man still could happen in that Howard Stark could still get killed later,
or
Tony Stark
he's still alive,
or he's still alive and Tony is on the trip in Afghanistan anyway and gets injured. And okay, I can track with that. Yeah. And I guess there is that moment when they show, and this is where I got confused. I didn't catch it all the first time I watched it, so I got confused the second time I watched it, because when Red Guardian is talking to General Dreykov, and Dreykov is giving him his mission to go to America and work undercover as a data processing clerk named Bob Toledo. Okay. He says, am I supposed to live there as an American? And they cut to a split screen of a couple of crying babies and kind of a domestic kind of environment. And then they cut away from that and they cut to Red Guardian as Bob Toledo in the airport playing Tetris on his little Russian Game Boy. Yep. So I thought that, to me, felt like that meant they changed how he came to America. Because, originally, if you watched Black Widow, he came to America, set up his cover identity, and then got sent back to Russia. And that's where the girls became.
But Dreykov always still had the Red Room anyway, even in his version. So he could still have created Black Widow and his own
Black Widow.
A Black Widow, but could have been Red Guardian.
How would it be?
Would just be not on that mission to go into America. He'd be on this separate or different mission that Dreykov sent him to.
Again, but then why do we have a Black Widow at the? They didn't. These are things that they don't explain, and maybe they're going to explain them later or not. But no, it's just.
I know you want more depth of the story, but I'm always seeing it in the sense of the writer in the animated world saying, "I only have fixed amount of time," and to fill up all that literally lends itself to almost being an hour. And they're fixed to a certain half hour. That's why that's why they've been doing this. I knew that in the back of my head, but I know it's kind of a pet peeve.
You give them their grace.
Yeah,
you give them their grace.
A pet peeve. I understand it. I believe it too.
All right. It just irks me.
But I did like that the Red Guardian, the Alexei, was playing a Game Boy and playing Tetris, because Tetris is created by the Russians.
Yeah, I love that. I love that little backstory history there. I love David Harbour. His voice acting in the two episodes that he was in were just spectacular, and particularly this one is just spot on. The man can do a voice acting. He just really did great. Between and switching between the Russian accent and his American, his real accent, was just priceless. That fact of coming back to being Bob Toledo,
Or even
was
him
great. So
trying to be American, the way he tries to like have Alexei impersonate American. We're looking for give a gift to our sister.
yeah.
What'd you get her? A sweater or a TV? Sweater and a TV. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like, spouting Marxist propaganda, though, every chance he can get, though.
Oh, yeah. Very true. The best part of it and what I did really like about it is Lawrence Fishburne in it.
Yeah. Lawrence Fisher did great. I had totally forgotten about that character.
Goliath.
So until Goliath, thank you. When he became Goliath, I was like, that's who he is. So
As soon as I
like,
recognized, I was like, who is this? Who is this? Because I didn't look at the credits. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Oh, and I'm like,
well, I had seen Lawrence Fishburne in the credits, and it just didn't even dawn on me because I think I've only watched Ant-Man and the Wasp a couple of times, so it didn't track with me.
Yeah.
About him being Goliath until he transformed into the suit, and I was like, oh, that's who he is. Okay, now I get it. So I really appreciated that little bit of the side. I loved America Ferrera's
As
portrayal of the Ranger
Morales. Yeah.
Ranger Morales. Yeah, I thought she was hilarious. Even more so the second time I watched it, when I really recognized her voice. The first time I didn't really pick up on it until the second watch, when I really picked up on her voice. She has a fairly distinctive voice that I think was really, really cool. So I loved all that about it. I love the action kind of movie.
It was like a Tango and Cash kind of
absolutely
attitude.
It was
with
definitely
this
it's
little team
definitely
up.
that action comedy, action adventure comedy kind of thing, team up that I just love, which is you and I both appreciate our 80s roots of the buddy cop movies.
It could be Bad Boys, it could be Tango and Cash, it could be
Red
Lethal
Heat,
Weapon.
Lethal Weapon. Like I said, Red Heat is one that stands out to me, of having two different cultures coming together and having that John Belushi and Arnold Schwarzenegger, is Jim Belushi, excuse me. No,
it was James
right.
Belushi. Yep.
No, James Belushi. Thank you, not John. Thank you. I was like, no, I did misspeak the first time.
I'm gonna call you Gumby.
So I call you Gumby. Danko, you're welcome. Okay. Time to feed Petakeet. All right. Anyway, we could go on with Red Heat quotes all day long.
I know,
but no. So I love that. I in particular on the second watch, I really picked up on the use of the split screen of all the different actors when the car goes over the cliff.
Oh yes.
The split screen of showing Red Guardian, showing Winter Soldier, showing Lawrence Fishburne, Ranger Morales, the car, and the Watcher even going,
he wasn't expecting that. It's as if he was watching it for the first time too.
Yeah, I just love that use of the split screen of all those different characters seeing the car going over the cliff. I thought was just amazing. And then of course them closing up the plot hole from Captain America Civil War. No, Captain America Winter Soldier both, I guess, really just the plot hole of who paid for, who set up the killing of Howard Stark. And now we find out that it was Obadiah Sloan. Slain, excuse me.
Obadiah Stane, I think it is.
Stane, yeah. However, that guy, Howard Stark's partner,
Jeff Bridges.
But another moment where I thought was when Bucky throws him out the window and looks. Oh, I think I just murdered that guy. So,
oh my God.
that looking down and going, oh, I think I just murdered that guy, and then of course them confirming it there with Ranger Morales and Ben Foster, them seeing the dead body, going, so they leave Howard Stark alive, but they killed the Baldy. So,
did you realize what was in the briefcase that they were going after, or no?
I'm assuming it was Super Soldier serum.
And they only had one bag out of 3. because 1 out of 3 ain't bad. And
Yeah. Which I didn't understand at first until they got to the end and Bucky hands him the one bag. And I realized I couldn't tell when he opened the briefcase. I guess when he opens the briefcase, only one of the bags, because it looked to me like all three of the bags were fine, but I guess only one of the bags were. It didn't. But when he said 1 out of 3, but then he only has one bag there at the end that he tries to give to Red Guardian. And Red Guardian throws it on the ground and says, they betrayed me, I betray them. So Russia has no more super soldiers. I thought it was great. So like I said, this definitely this third episode of the 3,
it's better written, better feel with the continuity of what they were doing. Yeah.
It really gave me more what if vibes, which I really appreciate. And like I said, the whole 80s cop, 80s buddy cop version movie of it kind of stuck with me too. So
I love the argument with Red Guardian and the girl at the burger joint.
Yeah, I'm a vegetarian. What'd she call him? Fart fart knocker or something like that. Yeah.
But the one thing that I did not like about this was Bucky was a little bit too Bucky in it in comparison to what his version of the Winter Soldier was like in Captain America and the Winter Soldier movie. He was very much like a machine in that movie. And then with this, he had personality. Very much of Bucky. Like he was aware. He wasn't being brainwashed in a way to be a certain soldier. Like he was on spec with like his personality when interacting with people, like with the officer, with
like
the girl at the burger joint.
Right. He says, I went into, what did he say? I went into covert operative mode.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So that didn't bother me so much because of the fact that he says he went into covert operative mode. And we never saw that. We never got to see that side of the Winter Soldier
in the movies.
Yeah. At least not until the end when we see him kind of poking around the museum, but even then we don't get to see how he was able to operate undercover. Yeah. Kind of. So I gave him a little grace on that.
All right.
that portrayal. But the only other quote I have from this one that I thought was really great was when they're in the car and they're being chased, and Red Guardian is going on and on about more and more about the Marxist propaganda and how great the proletariat is. Yeah. And Bucky says, "Again with the manifesto, you're more brainwashed than I am." Yep. I thought that was just a great line that I had to write it down. So
Marx had a great thing to say. He says this. I was like, oh my goodness. I just loved it. Yeah. The dialogue was done very well in it, I thought. And
it was really snappy, and it was really done really well. They cut that together really well. I don't know how they recorded it. I don't know if they were in the recording studio together doing it, or if it was cut together later. But however they did it was really well done.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see a behind the scenes to see if this was done, like in a studio, or if it was like COVID style. Everybody just did their own from home and then sent it in, kind of thing. And then the editors and stuff had to match it up.
It'd be interesting to see. That's the one thing that we lose every time they do not do physical media, because usually physical media has the behind the scenes stuff. What they should do is, with Disney Plus, they do these kind of retrospectives after the movie has come out. They did it with Deadpool, Wolverine, a couple of other movies too, even the Marvels, and it would be a spotlight on Disney Plus.
Oh, and
you would just get that little snippet behind the scenes, and it would be like 45 minutes at most. But they reflect on the filming and all that stuff. I wish they would do that more, for the fact that you are getting the actors from the actual MCU and it voicing it, and it would be great to see it.
It's one of the wonderful things about the what if, and I know we're getting close to wrapping up, so It's one of the things that I think we I don't know if we've commented about this before, that I do love about the fact that they do them animation style. They do this animation style, so all the actors have to do is do their voices, and so that really frees up. I assume anyway that frees up scheduling, in that they can do it whenever or from wherever, pretty much, if they want to. I mean, they can bring them into a studio, but they don't have to bring them into a studio to do these voiceovers, and so they can get the same actors to do it, even if they're working on other projects at the same time. Which is really, really cool. Which was why I was so excited to see Oscar Isaac's name in the credits of the first episode, and then he only had like 5 lines. So
I'm wondering, like I said, I didn't even peek at the other episodes and what they're titled, or to,
I haven't done. I did. Well, I take that back. I glanced at them because I wanted to make sure I have access to all of the episodes, and I do have access to all of the episodes. So I know the titles. I'm not going to spoil anything.
All right.
But I'm excited to watch the rest of at least watch the next 3, and then we'll have to hold off on the last 2 before we record again. But yeah, I'm excited to watch the rest of the series. Even as lackluster as I was about that first episode, I'm excited to see where they're going to take this season. And has this been announced as the final season?
I'm not sure.
Or is that not? Okay, I would hope not. I hope they're willing to do more, because it's a great show, and it's really cool they could do it animation style. So
yeah, it's interesting. I would assume that they are going to try to continue with it, but they are, because it is very popular with the fans, and unless they are going to concentrate more on Marvel Zombies or do one-offs like that, because Marvel Zombies wasn't even part of the original forecast of for Disney Plus. They decided it at D23 at one time and said, yeah, this is what's going to happen. I'm like, ooh, wow.
Okay.
But yeah, they could change their minds of all they want, because honestly, it might be more expensive for them to get all these actors back to actually do these things. Who knows? But we'll see. But I look forward to whatever we get. I'm not complaining that what we got some decent stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that pretty much covers the first 3 episodes of What If for this podcast, and
exciting stuff.
Yeah, we look forward to coming back on the next podcast, and we'll be covering episodes 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
And then we'll wrap it up with episodes 7 and 8. But for now, for this podcast right now, we're going to go into podcast recommendations.
Right now, I watch a lot of reality TV, and so I've been listening to a lot of the Rob Has a Podcast reality TV podcasts. I like that. I used to be a Patreon for Rob Has a Podcast. I'm not a Patreon for him anymore, just because I couldn't afford it anymore. But I recommend, if you like reality television, check out all of the Rob Has a Podcast different. He has a whole podcast network of reality show, reality podcasters. Podcasters over reality. Anyway, they podcast on reality shows, and he's got a whole stable of podcasters that do different shows. They do The Traitors, they do Survivor. Just finished listening to the Survivor 47 one. That was really great. I just finished listening to House of Villains. House of Villains just wrapped up, and they had a couple of their podcasters covering that one. They're going to be covering The Traitors, which is coming out here in a week or so. So it's if you like reality TV, check out Rob Has a Podcast.
Awesome. I would also like to recommend TV Podcast Industries. They are currently covering this, or if not, they've already finished covering What If Season 3. But they cover everything else, like Penguin and everything, other stuff that's based around that world as well. So give them a shout and listen to and follow them if you can. Get their perspective. They go more in depth. They will do like literally an hour per episode. So with us, we're trying to just showing our love and showing our thoughts overall within with these first three, and then the same thing with 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
But well, where else can listeners hear you, Steve?
Well, obviously, right here on Panels to Pixels, and I send voicemails to various other podcasts that I listen to. Right now, currently, the Walking Dead or Walking Dead cast will be coming back. Excuse me, the Cast of Us from Podcastica will be coming back, doing more of their rewatch of The Walking Dead, and also on Podcastica Skeleton Crew Cast, I send them voicemails. They're covering the Skeleton Crew season 1. TV show right now.
Awesome. As always, you could hear me here on Panels to Pixels podcast. As always, you could also hear me on Adrenaline Cinema podcast as well on the Pirate Core Entertainment Network as well. Yeah, we
and the What's On Tonight. I totally forgot to plug our own network's podcast. The What's On Tonight. Becky and Mandy are wrapping up or have wrapped up their coverage of What We Do in the Shadows, and I sent them voicemails for just about every episode of that, so you can hear my voice on that podcast. And I'm going to try to get with them and see if we can get some future collaboration together, maybe.
Cool.
But yeah. So What's On Tonight is a Adrenaline Cinema podcast.
Nope, Pirate Core Entertainment podcast.
Pirate Core, excuse me. Pirate Core Entertainment. I'm so terrible with this. This is our network, your network, and I'm just botching it completely. All right, let's take 2. The What's On Tonight podcast on the Pirate Core Entertainment Network, podcast network that is covering What We Do in the Shadows right now. You can hear me on them as well.
Yeah, actually on the last episode. I came in a little late, everybody. I fell asleep. And I wound up waking up and jumping in on the podcast.
Nice.
And Nando, too. Anyhow.
That final episode was a doozy.
But anyhow, yeah, you could hear me on Adrenaline Cinema podcast. Billy, who does the Slay Lounge podcast, which is a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast that they are currently covering there on the Slay Lounge podcast. He and I covered The Substance on Adrenaline Cinema podcast that came out in 2024 that had Demi Moore in it and Dennis Quaid and a whole bunch of other people. But you can look forward to the story of Ricky O that Frank and I will be doing, and I'll be looking at doing a few more things. I think we'll be coming back doing TV stuff because Mayfair Witches is coming back, and I know that Billy, Lara, and Becky and I are probably going to want to tear that apart if it's really bad like the first season. But yeah, well, you can hear me there, as well as, like I said, on What's On Tonight, and good plug for Billy and Will. They're taking a hiatus right now for the Buffy stuff, but Billy will be actually covering Alien, I believe. He wants to do Alien, so he's going to be covering that on the Slay Lounge podcast as well. Come the end of January will be the first episode of the Pirate Core Music podcast that will be on the Pirate Core Entertainment podcast listening. So if you go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, all you have to do is search for is the Pirate Core Entertainment podcast. And you'll see each episode is different because you got Becky and Mandy doing What's On Tonight. You also have Billy and Will when they're doing the Slay Lounge podcast. But you also see mine when we start doing the music podcast for Pirate Core Entertainment. So you'll Becky and I will be doing Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette. Billy and Lara will be doing Joy Division. Rima and myself will be doing Appetite for Destruction. And I'm looking to get Derek from TV Podcast Industry so we could talk about Prince. And if you have anything of interest, let us know. And that goes for anything, including you, Steve. If you wanted to be on, just have to let me know. We'll figure out what music we want to discuss. How in depth. It could be just an artist and a particular album. It could be just the artist itself and discuss their catalog of work and instruments and things of that nature for their production. But those are the places you could hear us. Sorry, this is getting always longer because I've added more podcasts. Anyhow, but there's a way for you to get in touch with us just the same. That's a way for you to send some sort of feedback like here, but we could be heard on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast player of choice. As always, if there's a rating or review available, please do so. We love 5 stars and we appreciate them. You could reach us on our Facebook group, which would be www.facebook.com/panels2pixels. I always kind of post something that's there, but for this one, we kind of jumped in on it just to try to get something out to you, get the new year started at least with something. So by the time you got this, guess what? Happy New Year. But you could always just get us through the Facebook Messenger, or if you see a post of something that we did or we are going to do, just put it in the comments below. Or you could easily do that on Instagram because it's Panels to Pixels podcast on Instagram, or at Panels to Pixels. I forget. Yeah, it's at Panels to
Panels to Pixels podcast. Yeah, it's all spelled out.
All right,
Yep.
so it's there. So you could leave messages there. We'll get them just the same. I think you can actually do a direct message, or you could just put them in the comments. You could email us at panels2pixels1@gmail.com. Panels spelled out, panels. 2 is spelled out TO, pixels, and then that number 1@gmail.com. That way you could just write out your thoughts, or if you want, you could record yourself, send it as an attachment in the email, and you could be as if you're on the podcast yourself. We've also received messages through YouTube because we have a YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel is Panels to Pixels podcast. Always subscribe, give a thumbs up, ring the bell to be notified. We've gotten them before. If you just put in Panels to Pixels, guess what? You'll get Josh, and I love Josh's work, but we're not that particular channel. Anyhow, and I'm a part of his Patreon, everybody too. So I haven't gotten anything from him yet. So I got to wish him a happy new year this year. Anyhow, but other than that, that is how you're able to get in touch with us. And I also recommend that you go to the Pyrocore Entertainment website, which is pyrocoreentertainment.com. Right now, I still have to get everything to go. I have to go some WordPress training to get this organized, because when Filmtropolis comes back, and by the way, yes, we're coming back. It's formerly Fantasy Picks Movie Edition. Rob is looking for a big comeback, so we're going to have a lot of recordings set for you all in place already. So look forward to hearing that. But I have to set his up. I have to set Mandy and Becky's, as well as Billy and Will's. And then obviously, well, honestly, I don't have to do one for the music podcast. You just email us and at pyrocoreentertainment@gmail.com. So, well, enough of me talking, because that's a lot of talking, a lot of me telling you how to get in touch with us, and I'm sure you're bored to death. Anyhow, that was our episode, and I just want to thank everybody for listening. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
Same podcast, different panel, different pixel. This was Panels to Pixels podcast, and we'll see you on the next panel. Good night, everybody.
Good night and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.